What's up, guys? Welcome back to episode 11 of the Stix podcast. And we look a little different here. Um,
We do.
there's a certain someone behind me here.
No, I
Last
mean,
week we talked about our thoughts and feelings on March Madness and the bracket and some of the upsets. And this week, after watching the first weekend, we'll give our thoughts. We'll check in on some of the upsets, some of our Cinderellas or the
yup,
Cinderella. Um, and then we'll give our little opinions on the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight. All
yup.
right. Moving on to the March Madness recap, weekend one. All of the top eight seeds move on to the Sweet 16. And let me just say, they all looked phenomenal, except for maybe Marquette. Marquette was down actually double digits to 15 seed Western Kentucky. And they looked a little fraudulent, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But overall, the
Y-
rest of the teams, other than maybe Houston,
What about my
who went into
boys?
overtime,
No bias
looked,
here.
looked pretty good. All the rest of the teams looked pretty good, other than
I
maybe
mean,
Houston.
Carolina was down 12 to Michigan State.
Yeah, but you guys stormed back and won
That's
by
true.
double
That is
digits.
true. That is true.
So, yeah, Houston went to double or single overtime over Texas A&M, and let me just say, A&M was down 11 or 12 with a minute left, and I thought the
Yeah.
game was over.
Nope.
Let's just say that was a little miracle moment right there.
It was
Um,
that 3-pointer at the end.
so we're gonna talk about the good games here. UConn, I mean, they looked like UConn. They killed everybody they played. Um, I mean, that's really it. Um, UNC looked very good. They only beat Wagner by like 20 some, but you know, it's whatever. Probably put in your scrubs with 10 minutes left. Speaking of putting in your scrubs with 10 minutes left, Purdue did that in the second round against 8 seed Utah State with 11, like 12, 11 minutes left.
Yeah.
Purdue puts in their whole bench. Their entire bench plays for this, like more than second half of the second half, which it's crazy. I was watching the game and Purdue was absolutely killing them. Drew, you want to talk about the two seeds?
Yeah. So Iowa State played, I believe, Morehead State. Was it Morehead State? I don't know who their first round matchup was.
No, Morehead
But
State played Illinois.
Illinois. I don't remember who Iowa State played, but their second round was against Wazoo, Washington State, for those that don't know. And Washington State, I was surprised they beat Drake. I think a lot of people had Drake winning that game.
Yep.
Um, but they looked kind of a little bit shaky there. They do have some games coming up here. They're my favorite now that Auburn is out of they lost their first round to Yale.
Yep.
But moved on to Arizona. Arizona's looked phenomenal. Caleb Love has looked like one of the better players in all of the tournament, unfortunately. And they play Clemson this weekend. And if they win that game and Carolina wins theirs, we are gonna see probably being unbiased, but a little biased. Probably see the most anticipated matchup of since Caleb Love transferred to Arizona.
I
Um,
can I can back you up on that one.
yeah, everyone except for us Carolina fans, I think, want to see this Arizona versus Carolina matchup because, of course, there's a storyline there. Um, and so I don't know, but either if Clemson or if Arizona wins that game, I'm not the happiest Carolina fan because Clemson beat us earlier this year. Tennessee have looked phenomenal in both their games versus St. Peter's and versus what was it? Texas? No, yeah, it was
Texas. It was
Texas.
Texas.
Actually, they didn't look phenomenal versus Texas. They looked kind of shaky towards the end, but they handle business in Charlotte. They play a tough Creighton team coming up this either Thursday or Friday.
Ooh,
So that should be a good game. And I think Aiden already touched on Marquette. That looks kind of fraudulent versus Western Kentucky for a while, and
yeah.
then put a close. Although granted, Colorado is a very good team. They have a lot of good
Yeah.
shot makers. So that game was close, and they play a pretty streaky team that we'll talk about in here soon.
Mm-hmm. Moving on. The biggest upset of the first round, Jack Golke in Oakland upsets Kentucky. I was watching this
Mhm.
game and I had Kentucky winning just one game.
Yeah, same.
Um, and so once I realized that Oakland was probably going to pull away with this game, I became a little bit of an Oakland fan. Not only for the fact that I was playing
You
the
wanted to
long
play
game in
them.
my March Madness pool,
Hmm.
with a lot of people had Kentucky going pretty far, but I had Kentucky losing to NC State in the next round. Um,
Yeah.
and I assumed that Oakland would be a pretty easy, um, or at least an easier game for NC State compared to Texas Tech, who they beat by, I believe, 13 points in the round of 64,
Yeah.
which was an upset, by the way, 11-6. Go Pack. But Jack Golke put up 16 3-pointers in the first two games of the tournament, which is, if you don't know, a record by, I believe, three threes. I think the second highest was Curry with like 13.
Jeez. Not a,
Um, anyways, Oakland proved to be not a very easy game. They send us to overtime. Jack
oh,
Golke had 22 points, and Trey Townsend, this guy number 4 pictured
doesn't
here,
get enough love.
does not get enough love. He was a fantastic player. He touched the ball every time down the court for Oakland, and I will say that they were a very underrated team coming into this tournament. They were a very strong team. They
Hmm.
knew what they were doing. They had a game plan. They stuck to it. Oakland
Came
was
close.
um, Oakland was a very tough out for NC State. Granted, State's an 11 seed, not the strongest, but they were a
Tough
tough
out
out,
for
and I
sure.
was scared watching this game because they did not go away.
For sure. For sure.
Moving on, NC
Talking
State,
about today.
the lone Cinderella left, the only double-digit seed in the Sweet 16. Speaking of the
Uh-huh.
Sweet 16, everyone talking about ACC not being a basketball conference, talking about we're only a two-bid conference.
Quarter
Um,
of the Sweet 16.
we have the ACC is responsible for 25% of the Sweet 16, being Carolina, Duke, Clemson, and NC State.
Very
Um,
possible, given the weekend upcoming, that come Saturday, Sunday, we might have half of the Elite Eight.
it is possible.
Very
Like
possible.
we said earlier, Marquette seemed a little fraudulent in the first two rounds. Now, Tyler Kolek seemed very strong. I believe he had a double double with 11 assists and 20
Yeah.
some points. Maybe it was 19.
I think he's
Um,
the nation's leading assister.
he is. He is. He averages like 9 assists a game. It's something crazy like that. But
Yeah, definitely.
we got this man, DJ Burns, or as I like to call him, Big Sexy, pictured up here on the screen. He's America's sweetheart right now.
And
Everybody's
State's
talking
America's
about
team.
DJ Burns, State's America's team. I literally got an ESPN notification middle of last weekend, and the only thing it said was, "Can anyone stop DJ Burns?" Now they had this man listed at 6'9", 275. I think he's a little bigger than that.
I agree.
Literally, I think DJ Burns could back down probably anyone in college basketball other than Zach Edey. Um, than this man behind me, this man. Um, DJ Horn hasn't looked very good throughout these first two games, but the big man play of NC State has looked phenomenal. In the first round, Ben Middlebrooks put up 21 points on
For
and
high.
nine of 10 from the free throw line, which he was, I believe, a 60% free throw shooter on the season. So big stats from Ben Middlebrooks. And picture here, DJ Burns in the second game against Oakland, he had 24 and 11, just a monster game from DJ Burns. And someone who doesn't get enough love on the NC State team, Muhammad Diarra, in this past 7 game stretch, he's been averaging a double double. Um, and he is probably one of our best defensive staples on this team. Granted, DJ Burns can't really get up like that. He is 6'9", but he's a hefty fella. So
Hmm.
we need someone else to be able to step up on defense, and Ben Middlebrooks and Mohamed Diarra have done just that. Um, Michael O'Connell continues to be hot. Um, Casey Morcell continues to be somewhat hot. He just does his job when we need him. Um, Now, I will say, in the end of that Oakland game, Ben Middlebrooks and Diarra fouled out, and we didn't put in Ernest Ross, which I thought was a little iffy because we were only down to DJ Burns, and Oakland had two pretty good big men in the game.
I really want a
But
storyline behind that. I
yeah,
mean, we all know that Ernest Ross played pretty quality minutes for NC State last year,
yeah,
and so we I mean there has to be something going on, whether that's just like he's just a toxic for the team. I don't know what it is. I just want to know if he just doesn't Keats doesn't believe in him, but we know
yeah,
that he can be a good player.
yeah. Anyways, State plays Marquette on Friday. Um, I expect it to be a pretty close game. I think Marquette is a very tough team. I do have Marquette winning this game in my bracket, but if there's any team I would like to brush my bracket, it's NC State and this magical
Hmm.
Cinderella run. Moving
I
on.
think I haunt
Oh,
I think it's worth noting. It's fine. I think it's worth noting that it's very impressive that this NC State team has been able to go so far when to win these two games without the help of their best player in DJ Horn. I think that it's very very impressive, and that once DJ Horn starts to get going, that it's very very possible that Marquette would lose this game because
yeah.
we all know Shaka Smart can't really do much in March. Granted, that 1 year of ECU.
Yeah. All right, moving on. March Madness. Here's we're just taking another look at the bracket just to see what we're looking at. Talk about some of the bigger games. Um, you guys know I go to App State. You guys know that I said that Auburn was a fraudulent team. Now, last episode, Drew and I discovered that we were a little psychic. I think we're furthering our
Even more.
resume here.
Yeah.
We're furthering our resume here. Now, granted,
Yep.
I did get a few upsets wrong. I had McNeese, I had Drake. There's a few others. I had New
New
Mexico and
Mexico was
Nevada.
huge one. Man, New Mexico was a huge whiff. All
Yeah,
of the Mountain West teams were a huge whiff.
yeah. Um, but I mean, Auburn, bro, you were up a good amount against Yale, and you let some future lawyers and accountants come back and
Absolutely destroy you.
now I will say that shot he put up to tie the game was one of the toughest shots I saw of this first
So tough.
round. Such a good shot. Moving on, New Mexico. So many people were so high on New Mexico. I had New Mexico in my Sweet 16. Um, Apparently I picked the wrong 11 seed to be in the Sweet 16. Granted, I did pick
Mm-hmm.
State, but New Mexico did not get off hot. They did not start off strong. They just got killed from
Destroyed.
the get go. Clemson won by 20 something, I believe. Um, Another Mountain West team in the West bracket that was pretty disappointing. Nevada. Nevada was up 17 with 7 minutes to go, and they lost.
Yeah,
Um,
that's just embarrassing.
I don't really know how you do that. I thought that Nevada had it in the bag. I was watching it while I was working out. Um, I can't believe it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
JMU over Wisconsin. I had Wisconsin winning. Um, Once again, I go to App State. I've seen JMU play. App State was 2-0 against James Madison, responsible for two of their three losses. Um, Granted, Duke comes in the second round and actually kills them by
Yeah, Jamie's
38.
not good.
Yeah, Duke, after a pretty disappointing performance against Vermont, gets actually killed by Duke. Or yeah, JMU actually gets killed by Duke by 38 in the second round. Um, like we talked about earlier, NC State over Texas Tech, big game for the big men. Um, we already touched on it.
We
Oakland
knew
over
it was gonna
Kentucky,
happen.
we already touched on it. The Colorado Florida game, I would say, was the best game of the first round. That game finished off with a score of, I believe, 102 to 100. Um,
Yeah.
we're putting up NBA scores here in college. Um, I guess none of these teams have any defense at all. Um, but I know Colorado is some bucket getters.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
100%.
Colorado looked really good. Glad I predicted that upset. And then Western Kentucky was up on Marquette by a decent amount. And then, it just kind of went haywire from there. Um, Utah State. played a very good game against TCU, and then Utah State got actually killed by this man behind me, Zach Edey. Um, that
Bad. It was
was
bad.
it was a horrible game. They put in the bench players and the scrubs, and they were just still raining threes on them. Um, Utah State has a lot of talent with Great Osabor. I remember, or I believe is his name.
Hmm.
Very good player. Unfortunately, he's 6'9", and you're not going to do anything at 6'9" against 7'4" Zach Edey. Um, McNeese was another popular upset pick, and Gonzaga actually throttled them.
No,
And then,
I changed my pick last second. I saw that they played the
yeah,
university or the Mississippi University for women or whatever, and I was like, "Yep, not picking them anymore. Go
um,
Zags." And then the Zags
so,
looked really impressive the very next round
mm-hmm,
against a granted not against a fully healthy Kansas team, but still a Kansas team that we thought should have given
at least
Kansas
a
or
fight.
could have given get Zags at least a fight. But no, they absolutely destroyed them in the second half of that game,
Yeah,
and Gonzaga is gonna be a tough out for Purdue.
yeah,
So
they scare me a little bit since I have Purdue as my champion.
yeah,
Moving on, Oregon and South Carolina. Um, I don't remember his first or Jermaine Cousinard.
Jermaine Couisnard
Jermaine Cousinard dropped 40 against South Carolina. Are you kidding me?
and then the Fly Dante,
Yeah,
absolutely
they that combo, that guard big combo, crazy combo right there. Dante and Cousinard looked fantastic in the second round against Creighton, forcing double overtime, but unfortunately, Oregon needed a little bit more depth to push through against Creighton. Literally the entire second half points, or I
it was like all
believe
but two
all but two of the second half points was scored by Dante
Dante
and
and
Cousinard.
Couisnard. It was
Creighton put up a very good game. They looked very good in double overtime. They really didn't look that fatigued, which is kind of crazy to me,
I
considering it
agree.
was your second game in 3 days and you were in double overtime. That's crazy.
Hmm.
Um, and then Texas over Colorado State. Colorado State had, I believe, 11 points at halftime, which was crazy. Everyone was getting on Virginia for putting up 14 and a half, and then Colorado State
Does
comes
the
along
exact
and puts
same
up
thing.
11.
Actually, just
So,
embarrassing. It's not
yeah,
Texas defense is anything too crazy. It's just
yeah.
embarrassing performance from Colorado State for 100%.
And then finally, St. Peter's doesn't get another Elite Eight Cinderella run this year. Unfortunately,
No,
they lose to
unfortunately not.
Tennessee.
In pretty
They're
bad
missing
fashion.
they were missing a key part in Doug Edert.
Yeah,
Um
100%.
so um yeah, that's it so far.
Or just I think we can maybe do you won't be able to see them on this, but there's maybe some predictions for this
Hmm.
upcoming weekend. UConn plays what is
San
it?
Diego
Illinois.
State.
Oh, San Diego
San
State.
Diego
Yeah,
State in a
you
national
rematch.
championship rematch.
Yeah, I was gonna say, UConn probably short and sweet destroys them here.
Yeah, probably.
San Diego State didn't look all that impressive against UAB, and they did win a good amount against Yale, but that's Yale.
Yeah.
So I think UConn wins this pretty handedly. Then we got
I'm actually very excited for this Illinois Iowa State game. This one
oh,
should
me
be pretty
too.
good.
It should be.
Um,
Both have looked somewhat shaky versus their opponents,
yeah,
and so we are gonna see what they can do.
yeah,
I don't know about you. I think I'm gonna go. I don't know. It's so hard because Terrence Shannon Jr. is just such a bucket that
yeah,
if he goes off, this game could be favoring towards the Fighting Illini.
yeah.
So we'll see.
Um, yeah. But I have Iowa State winning for a little to no reason other than I think they can win. Moving on. UNC versus Alabama. I originally had Alabama. I talked a lot. I was very high on them in the last week's episode. I did
Like,
switch to Carolina.
to put it very in the nicest terms I can, Alabama looked like complete dog doo doo against
Yeah,
Grand Canyon. They did not deserve to win that game at
yeah.
all. And Alabama plays a lot of their basketball in transition, but
Oh,
Carolina's good in transition. And I quite frankly do not think that they can stop our offense.
neither do I.
And our defense is good enough that I feel like we can handle them pretty well. So
Yeah,
I see Carolina winning this game by 10, 15 plus.
yeah.
Um, and then Clemson and Arizona here at the bottom.
We were
I don't,
we were
don't
kind
want
of
to.
hating on Clemson
We were,
before.
and they looked really good, but I don't want to say it. I think Arizona's gonna win this game, and I don't want it to happen. But I think Arizona wins the game, and we get a Caleb Love versus Carolina matchup.
Yeah, I have Arizona winning this matchup.
Got to feed
Um,
families.
yeah, this matchup's gonna feed families. Or the Carolina Arizona. Going
Yes.
on to Houston versus Duke. Duke looked phenomenal in the round of 32. And I hopefully, they could pick this up. You will never see me cheering for Duke. I hate Duke, but I do like money. So
That's very true. Well, no
I
amount
have
of
Duke
money
in
can
my
get
final four.
no.
So
Unlike you, Aiden, no amount of money could even make me cheer for Duke for one possession of a single basketball game. I hope Houston comes out of the water and blows these bitches out by 40. Sorry for cussing. But
sorry
I
for
do think
cussing.
I I do think that Houston's physicality is too much for Duke to handle because Flopolotsky is not a good five, and Jamal Shed's a very good defensive guard, probably one of the
He is
better
very good.
guards.
Very
Granted,
good.
Houston's defense has not looked the best in this tournament, but I do think that Houston wins this game in a very, very good quality game. And
Yeah.
then State and Marquette, it's Marquette has looked, let's be honest, Marquette has looked shaky
Yeah.
defensively. And State is on the hottest streak of any team in this tournament that's still
Yeah.
left. They're on the
Yeah.
hottest streak, and you know me, I'm a Carolina fan, so I try I want to be biased and say State will lose, but I mean they're right, they have such a hot hand, and
Yeah.
I feel like they can ride this momentum very very easily, knowing Marquette struggles in the tournament and win this game, and that's my unbiased prediction. I have State winning this game.
I really want to have State winning this game. I think State has the facilities to do it. They've looked very strong in these last 7 games that they've won straight. Um, and I think Marquette also looks super strong, but Marquette hasn't done anything in the tournament in any recent memory. Marquette always seems to crumble. They were 2 seed last year, and you didn't even know where they finished. You have no idea where they finished. It was that early. Um,
Yeah, I have no clue.
I I think State has the facilities to win, and like I said earlier, if there's any team that I would love to bust my bracket, it would be NC State. Um, and we could keep the Cinderella train moving. Um, moving to the Midwest region, Purdue versus Gonzaga. Like we said, Gonzaga has looked absolutely phenomenal in these first 2 rounds, but so has Purdue. Um, and I've watched both Purdue games. I honestly don't know how teams game plan to beat Purdue. When you have a 7'4" weapon like Zach Edey, granted his game is so one dimensional. He sits in the paint, he gets rebounds, he dunks the ball.
It's
But
fouls.
he's 7'4", 300 pounds, and he draws so many fouls because that's what defenses have to do to stop him.
Yeah,
Um,
they have to be physical.
they have to be physical, and sometimes they're too physical. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I have Purdue winning this game.
Uh, I think it's very hard to predict because Purdue is such a bipolar team. They're either really good or they suck.
Hmm.
Right now they're on a hot streak. They've looked pretty good against both the teams they've played, and I want Gonzaga to win, but Gonzaga's kind of in that same boat as Purdue. Highly touted teams who just struggle in the postseason.
Yeah,
Um, I think Purdue probably comes out of this game with a win, but it won't be easy. It'll definitely
yeah.
be a rough game for
It'll be
Purdue.
a great game.
And then
Great game.
one of my favorite matchups of this whole entire Sweet 16, Creighton versus Tennessee. This
Hmm.
game is going to be very, very good. Creighton's offense is pretty good. You got Baylor led by Baylor Shireman, a third-team All-American, and we all know that unlike the rest of the SEC, Tennessee's defense is very good, some of the best in the
Yes,
country.
yes,
And so we're gonna see. We're gonna need Dalton Connect is gonna need to drop. Is gonna need to have a game. He's the X factor of this team. If Dalton Connect has a good game, and Tennessee's defense will always play like Tennessee's defense, then I think that Tennessee wins this game.
yeah.
However, Creighton could just as easily shoot lights out, and Dalton Connect could have an off game, and Creighton wins this. I have Creighton
I
in my
also have
in my
Creighton.
championship. So I'm gonna
Oh,
go champ. I'm
whoa!
gonna
I
go.
did not have
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I Creighton in my championship, so I'm gonna go Creighton here. And yeah, that's. I think that's all the matchups that we had and all the talking we have for today. I believe we'll see y'all for next week's episode number 12. Have a wonderful week. See you next Thursday.